This episode is sponsored by Launch. Are you an insurance agent that is tired of quoting business to try and find a better premium to win new deals? Are you looking for a way to differentiate and stand out from your competition? Well, look no further than Launch. Launch is an industry-leading software platform that gives you pre-built assessments that you can walk through with your prospect. Launch automatically calculates your prospect's risk score, and this allows you to show your prospect the areas you can fix to negotiate better premium and coverage with underwriters. Offer more value to your clients, turn missed sales into closed business, and most of all, become a better advisor to your clients. Visit getlaunch.io today to get more information on how you can use Launch to win more BORs starting right now. That's getlaunch.io to learn more.
Welcome to the Getting Past the Premium podcast, where we focus on breaking down risk management problems bit by bit until we find a solution. If you would like to discuss anything you hear on GPP with us, please reach out using the links in the description. Enjoy today's episode.
Hey Meg, well thanks for coming on the show. It's good to see you again.
It's good to be here. It's good to be seen in this day and age. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, we're excited for this conversation. So we're in the process, and you and I got connected through Ryan Hanley with the sales process series that we're doing. I thought this was, with your background, which I'll have you get into in a second, was a great time to have you come on and kind of discuss just our industry as a whole and what you do in your consulting practice on a regular basis, because I think it's a different perspective on sales and everything that goes into being a successful salesperson as a whole. What you and I've talked about a lot. And I think that'll be a really good conversation kind of in the middle of this sales process series that we're doing. And so let's start there, if you don't mind. Like, who are you? What's your background in the industry? And then kind of what are you doing today to help support the industry in your consulting practice, and go from there.
Thank you. And I just want to back up and just thank you for being open to a different perspective. I think a lot of what we see in our industry when it comes to education and training is it has sort of a one note quality to it. And so I appreciate being able to be here and weigh in with a slightly different perspective and background. So thank you again for that.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to use our precious time here reading my resume. My LinkedIn profile is up to date, and if anybody wants to go check it out. But I would summarize my insurance career as being very traditional. I graduated from a small liberal arts college in the middle of Illinois, and the job market was solid at the time. And I landed with a carrier out in Ohio and started out in underwriting and worked my way several different carriers, spent time in the field, went into underwriting leadership, and then the phone rang, and it was a former agent client of mine, and they were having a moment and asked me to come over and join them, and I did. And that gave me a completely different perspective on a business and the business, and stayed there for a while, made one more turn, and then went independent, started consulting almost 5 years ago. But the story that's within that story is very much my personal journey that I've been on through all of that. And what I've just read to you, kind of resume style, is what a lot of us see when we look at an insurance career. But the journey that I've been on as a woman and as a professional woman finding my way has been a whole lot more clumsy. And there have been some missteps along the way, walking into an organization on day one and realizing, oh my goodness, I have made a terrible, terrible mistake. And the shame and the feelings of, how am I going to unravel this? I can't have one more job on my resume. They're going to think I'm a quitter. I'm not a team player. I mean, the narrative and the talk that we do with ourselves in those moments is very real. And the season of life that I'm in now is I choose to tell those stories, and I choose to talk about the hard days, not just for me, but to invite others to really embrace the hard days, because this business it's messy and it's unlike anything I've ever known. It's the only one I've ever known. So I'm a little bit biased there, but I say it candidly, there are some very dysfunctional organizations out there, and we become part of that dysfunction. And many of us are in a point in our careers today where we're really reevaluating, is that where we want to be? Is this the game we want to play? Is it a game at all that we want to play? Is that how we want to navigate lives and careers? So lots going on, lots of layers there, but that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah, so just expand a little bit on kind of what you're doing then today for agencies, people, because I know you have a diverse consulting practice, but like what are you doing and how are you helping people specifically? Because I think that's an important piece of this whole
Yeah.
conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of silly to say, and I hope you'll give me the grace to say it, and then I'll clarify. But I built a business that I want to work in. And so, as a consultant, I don't do what you would think of as traditional ongoing consulting work, where I come into an organization and over the course of 6 months or a year, we have weekly deliverables and check-ins and phone calls. And that's not the kind of work that I thrive in. And so I don't do it. And so what I do, though, is project-based work. And so it's probably best to tell you kind of what I've got cooking right now, which I'm really excited about. The common thread you'll see is communication. It's my ability to have a productive, safe conversation, whether it's with one person or a room full of people, but also leverage this insurance knowledge that I have, because after all these years, it's what I know. And so I do private coaching, just signed a contract with a carrier to do private coaching for a team of underwriters, which I am over the moon about, that we're offering support and resources to our underwriting teams from a third party, from the outside, with a different perspective. I think it's a really smart move, and I'm glad they agree. Doing some in-person facilitation workshops for that group as well. And we're doing underwriting's hard right now. We're in a market, and it's hard to sell renewal increases. It's hard to be the agent on the receiving end of that news, and there's a nuance to that. I'm also doing quite a bit of public speaking now that the universe has opened up. We're not beyond COVID, but wherever we are with it, we're back in person, and conference season is winding down now, but it's been a busy one for me. And that looks like moderating panel discussions, a bit of keynotes, and then also emceeing some larger events, which is really cool. So the common thread there is, again, individual people, small groups of people. I also do some executive, like strategy planning sessions, those kind of things. Let's get 8 minds in a conference room and try to solve something at the end of 2 days. And where it's all going, which is where the sociologist in me really gets excited, and we talk about finding alignment with your work and how you show up, and of all the muscles that we have, which are the ones that you're flexing most often, and how can we stay in that place, is this idea around culture. And all the conversations I'm having right now are not about how do we drive more revenue, but it's how do we engage with the people that are here, and how do we see them and value them in a way that maybe they haven't felt seen and valued in the past. And talking a lot about the intergenerational changes that are happening in the industry. We've got 5 generations in the workforce right now. Lest we forget, we also have 5 generations of people buying insurance, which we don't always think about when we think about the way we've always done it. And I love this stuff. Like, I'm a total geek for this stuff. And so to be able to leverage my own passion and my knowledge in an industry that I just think is such a hidden gem. But we have a huge responsibility to start telling those stories to the next generation, so that selfishly someday I can retire, because as much as I love it and want to be here, I don't want to be here forever.
Yeah. Well, I know there's a couple things in there that resonate with Ryan. Yeah. I'm sure that he wants to jump on, but there was one at the start of that you were saying that you were going to say, and then let us unravel. But I totally agree with you. Is building a business that you want to be in, that you want to work for. I can't remember how you phrased it, but yeah. But we talk about that a lot, of just even to say a producer, or even if you're an underwriter or whatnot, is aligning yourself with a business that you want to be in business with is super important. And I don't think is given enough credence, I guess, or given enough value for people individually. It's taking the ownership of or having the ability to take the ownership of that for yourself, you're building your own business. Some people aren't necessarily building the business, that they own, but they can still kind of treat it that way in their role, by selecting the organization that they want to align with. That doesn't always mean that you're going to make the right decision as you.
Yeah.
But that's okay. And It's just, I feel like we just don't give ourselves enough credit to go do that and to think that way. And it's just so important, because at the end of the day, if it's a well-run organization, um, you also, as the organization, don't want people that aren't going to be successful at your company, because that's just a recipe for, that person's going to be stressed and not, they're not going to be fulfilled, I guess. And then obviously you're not going to be able to grow the organization or whatever your goals are. So those things should be aligned, right? And again, I don't think that it's oftentimes approached that way. So that was one of the things I pulled out right away that I thought I totally agree with. And it's awesome that you made that, realization that just said, I'm going to build the thing. I don't have to do it the way that other people did it. I'm going to do it the way that I want to do it. And the last thing I think I would say to that is, like, that's the beauty of our industry too, is there's not one way to do it. And we're seeing it a lot right now, which I love, is folks that are leaving big insurance houses or whatever and starting their own small to start. Some grow very quickly, are big organizations, but they're doing it because they want to get out of the rat race. They want to build something that they can build a lifestyle around and help clients differently or whatnot. And again, it's just, there's no one way to do it. There's no right way to do it. You have to figure out what works for you, right? And so I totally agree with that. Again, I know that there might be some things Ryan wanted to pull out of that too, because there's a lot of good stuff, but I don't know if that generates any further comments from you, but I totally agree with you on that piece of it for sure.
Yeah, I think for me, you use the word success, and success is a really loaded concept for me. And if I had to go deeper into the layers and really sort of understand the journey that I've been on, not just in the last 5 years as a self-employed person, but as someone who grew up in a very traditional, go get a job, do your time, get the 4% raise, maybe get a promotion, maybe hop around a little bit because we know that's when you get the money. I had a very traditional career path up until the point that I didn't. And one of the things that I get asked all the time, and I'm choosing to look at it as a curiosity and a form of flattery, but is, what is my vision for this business? And where do I want to be 5 years from now or 10 years from now? And what does perpetuation look like? And what does growth and scale look like? And I don't laugh at the questions, but that is 100% not the business that I created. That is the old language that I have happily let go of in my own narrative, as I'm self-coaching and acting like the CEO of my business that I am. I want to create a business that provides for my life, and I want to do good, meaningful work that has value and impact to the people that I work with. And I want to make enough money so that I can live the life that I want to live. I love to travel. We talked a little bit about that before we started recording, but I'm a digital nomad and I'm 100% on the road.
Travel doesn't do it justice, Meg.
Yeah. But it's a different way of life. I want to be able to give charitably. That's really important to me. I want to be able to give back in a way that's meaningful to me and not the way that my employer decides is meaningful to them. And I take that very seriously. And obviously I want to fund retirement because that's coming faster than I think some days. And that is not a business that needs to grow by 10% or 20% or 100% or 10x in the next 5 years. It's a lifestyle business. And there's a bit of a judgment that comes from in the entrepreneurial community. Oh, you're just building a lifestyle business. Oh, it's just, you mean you don't want to be the next Elon Musk? No, I don't want to. I don't know what he worries about at night, if anything, but I don't want that in my life. I've worked really hard to let go of some of that anxiety and that worry. And I'm not there yet, right? Small business ownership is hard. You throw in a pandemic, you throw in economic uncertainty that may or may not be coming. And, there's a lot of questions for a lot of people right now out there. And this is not the easy path. But for me, it was the closest that I could get to really doing it in a way that was healthy and provided balance and alignment for me. And that's what I chose to prioritize, not making the most amount of money, not building a team of 50 people and being accountable to them and having investors and outside stakeholders. And none of that felt good and exciting to me, but this does. And so I love that you could put 5 of us in a row and we're all going to have different motivations and we're all going to have different methods and different desired outcomes. But to your point, it's all valid and it all works. And as an industry, we have to start thinking differently about what does that employee-employer relationship look like? And I say it with affection, but like the generation coming into the business right now, they're not having this. I work for the same person for 40 years. And I hope that at the end of that, I get a trophy in a corner office and dedicated parking. Like that is not the life that they're living. And yet so often we just want to convince them that, but it's good and just stick it out and do your time and you'll get the payoff eventually. And I don't blame them. I'm envious of them, frankly, that they know, and they are so much more self-aware. It's taken me decades to get to the level of the ability to talk about what I need and what I want. I think it's amazing and also frustrating because change is hard, right?
Oh yeah. Well, congratulations for making it happen, Meg. Like I think this is happening quicker in other industries.
Yeah.
And you're the first one I've talked to that has openly expressed this, thoughts like this in our industry, which congratulations, and also like good luck in the risk management space, right?
Yeah, I hear you.
We share some of these same thoughts and sentiment about what you're saying, I guess. So on the heels of that, throw your coaching and consulting hat on. I mean, how are you, if you were an agency owner going and looking for talent to help the 5 generations that we're trying to provide value to and whatnot, like, how would you be positioning the business to be conducive to everything that you just laid out with how people are thinking about their work life today?
Yeah, I love it. And thanks for asking that question. And I will preface this. Every agency is unique. Every leader is unique. But in general, I think agency leadership has a huge blind spot in the sense that many of those individuals have only ever worked within those 4 walls or in their local community or in their local economy. And there's a lot that we can learn from stepping outside of that comfortable and familiar box that many of us find ourselves in. And it's not a judgment, right? That's how our business was built. Every town, every county seat had the insurance guy. And the insurance guy was the insurance guy. And until there was another insurance guy, and then things got a little ugly and we started stealing employees back and forth. I mean, like this is the reality for many, I would say, traditional insurance agencies out there. And so step 1 is, can you invite more diverse thought? And maybe it's someone on your team, or maybe, shameless plug, maybe it's somebody with an outside perspective altogether. But one of the things that I see over and over again is we keep going to the same sources for information and ideas. And what I love about my methodology and what I bring to the conversation is we're going to talk about feelings, and we're going to talk about confidence, and we're going to talk about that blind spot, and we're going to name it. And that is very squishy, mushy, hard to quantify, can't put it on a spreadsheet, can't measure it kind of work. But I know, because of the feedback that I receive, and frankly, my own personal experience navigating this industry, those are the qualities that individuals are looking for in leaders right now. Can you lean into that authenticity and that vulnerability? So that's one piece of it. I think leadership as individuals, as humans, have some work to do, frankly, leaning into their own discomfort and having some of these conversations and being okay admitting what they don't know and what some of their own blind spots are. The other piece of this, and I have some, like, I want to put some more thought about this. I don't know what that's going to look like. It could be a LinkedIn article or maybe nothing. Who knows? I have a very love-hate relationship with LinkedIn sometimes, but it's going to sound radical to say, but I think we need to stop hiring salespeople to sell insurance, which, like, before everybody turns this podcast episode off and thinks I've lost my mind. I just want to.
We're in the middle of a sales series.
Exactly. Right. And I would say, myself included, I am kind of the anti-salesperson, right? I didn't have, no one would ever describe me as being aggressive or assertive or the loudest voice in the room or a closer, or that's just not language that fits me, but yet I was successful in insurance sales. And obviously now I'm doing business development every day in my own consulting practice. So it doesn't stop just because I'm not selling insurance anymore. But this idea that on the flip side, going back to the 5 generations that we have in the workforce, not a single person that is breathing on this planet and has to buy insurance, which is most of the people on the planet, want to buy insurance from a salesperson. And so, meaning that energy that in your face, I'm generalizing, I'm stereotyping, but that hunter, that killer, that aggressive, the barracuda, nobody is inviting that energy into their lives right now. And that's the persona that we have. And that's responsibility, that's a whole other conversation for another day. But I think there are some really capable individuals that are already here in our industry that don't see the path to success in sales because we haven't made a solid underwriting background. I've worked for some of the best companies in the business, and I've handled, it's all been P&C, but small business, middle market. I would put my underwriting prowess up against most anybody's in the business. When I became an agent, when I started selling, what did I not have to worry about? Insurance as a technical product. I already knew that. I knew that I was going to outsmart any pain in the you-know-what client who thought they were going to try to go toe-to-toe with me about cyber liability or whatever bee was in their bonnet that day. What that did to my confidence, it went through the roof because I wasn't trying to compensate for what I didn't know. Now, is every underwriter sitting inside a carrier right now going to be a good agent? No. But I promise you there are some that if you could soften the blend from salary plus bonus plus PTO plus all the bells and whistles that come from carrier life, and instead of making them straight commission on day one, you got to earn your worth and validate and all the terminology we use on the agency side within 60 days or 6 months or 2 years. Can we invest more on the front end to make that a softer transition for a potentially better outcome on the back end? And then can we talk really honestly about what success looks like? Can you be a successful producer in 6 months? I don't think so. The one that I want to be working with as a buyer of insurance is not the one that is that persona that we described. It's the opposite. It's the caretaker. It's the one who's listening, who's high in empathy, and who's really smart. I want my insurance agent to be really smart about insurance. And when we focus so much on the revenue on the front end, we miss the knowledge piece. We miss it. And I think it might sound radical. It's radical.
Yeah.
But these are the conversations I think we have to be having, frankly.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Go ahead.
One of the things that was resonating with me when you were saying that is like, this is what we do from the client's perspective, is we are rethinking like the cost of acquiring a client, and how can we, if we understand the value of a client long term, how can we change the way that we go find the right client? And it's the same thing, but you're looking at it from the employee perspective. Like if we changed how we look at the value of this employee over a period of time, how does that change where we go find them and how we bring them in and what resources we give them and the time frame and the dollars and all of it?
Yeah. And I think changing that language from value to the investment. What's the investment we're willing to make? And that's not been something that either we've needed to do or done well in the past. And I think specifically about training, when I think about so often, I'm laughing. It's not funny. It's horrible. New producers walk in on day one, if they're new, and I'm aging myself when I say this, but you get the yellow pages and a phone and you just start dialing for dollars and you hope that something sticks. And you hope that at the end of the week, when you have to go back to the agency principal and you have to report back what you've done, that all the little hash marks on your spreadsheet or your yellow legal pad are enough to convince that person that you're doing enough to earn another week. And what do we control about the insurance sales process? Nothing. only our actions, only our behavior. You can't control when the client's going to buy. You can't control what price the carrier is going to give you, what terms they're going to give you. Where do we invest the least? In the individual salesperson. Oh, you got licensed. You went to a 2-day class to get your license. You're good. You're trained. It's criminal what we don't do in terms of investing in our talent.
Yeah, and it's as we're talking about rethinking that. It took me back, Ryan, to the first episode in the sales process series with Casey Schrader. How he's like, our entire process is not, and he goes, this is how he views the industry moving, and how we discuss it on the show is like, it's not, you're not selling something, you're educating the person, you're being an advisor, because people don't understand what they're buying, they don't understand how it's going to impact them, they don't understand how to buy it, they don't, I mean, it's been done, to your point, done one way for a really long time. It's been sold, right? And if we can make this shift to, the name of the podcast is Getting Past the Premium, because it's, let's get past all of that and talk to our clients, learn about them, understand them, help them understand how to do all of this better, and truly make an impact on their business, their personal life. That's how you're going to sell a ton of insurance. If, that's how we want to relate it. Like, it's there, the success is going to matter, or what do I say, that they're one and the same, right?
Yeah.
If you're out educating and providing value to people, they're naturally going to want to continue to be in relationship with you, right? And so that switching that term to educating, to being an educator, to being an advisor, I think is so important to making this shift. So I the radical thought that you threw out there, I'm like, I totally agree with. Again, we do need to get to that. But I will say the shift of rethinking kind of that, how you bring people into your firm, your agency is very interesting to rethink that a bit. And it's thinking about it with the end in mind. Right. And
yeah, I like the Covey reference. That's great.
Yeah.
I love that. And I use that. I think about that. Where is this all going? What is the result that we want? Do we want another producer that doesn't make it? Do we want even more churn in an industry that we have been known for? You are more likely to fail than to make it as a producer in our business. Are we proud of that, and are we perpetuating it, or are we offering something different? And
is it like 70% or something of, sorry to interrupt you, but
I've heard
with agents or something like that.
75% is the metric that I've heard, but I mean,
it's a lot.
It's too much, and there's too much goodness, but there's also good opportunity here. That I think if we're more discerning on the front end about how we sell a career in insurance sales, if we're really honest about the struggle and what that looks like, and also the upside as well. I think we need to be telling that story too, that it can be a place where you can grow and continue to evolve. And maybe that doesn't involve a Maserati or a second home in Cabo, or whatever motivator has come for the generations or the individuals before us. Maybe it's you have freedom and flexibility to spend your time the way you want to. Maybe it's that you can align yourself with organizations in your community that have values that align with yours. For me, and I'll share this with you because it's a little tactical, but I also think, I know it works because it's how I did it. You talk about educating the client, and I agree with you. The kind of education we provide, I think, is really important. And most clients don't want to learn about insurance. That's just the reality. Please don't educate me on general liability and co-insurance. And this is frankly what I see a lot of on LinkedIn, is agents wanting to make the buyers of insurance smarter about insurance. And they just don't want that. That is not going to bring them in and ask them or leave them wanting more. But you talked about the process. And I do think that's an opportunity for us as salespeople. Can we help the buyers of insurance to build comfort and familiarity and take away some of the fear and the stigma that comes with buying insurance? Because we're not taught this. We know this. You have to get auto insurance if you turn 16 and get your license. And at the same time, you have to give $100 to your mom every Friday in order to pay for it. And it comes it feels like a punishment. And so we often view insurance as a punishment and as an obligation rather than something that can do really meaningful work for us when we have it at the right time in our lives. And one of the business development funnel, or the tool that I created for my business, was a workshop, and I offered it for free. And I paired myself or worked with local organizations in the community. So it would be like a chamber. Living in Chicago at the time, there were lots of communities for startups and entrepreneurial types where they would hang out. And I didn't talk about insurance, but I called it Business Insurance Basics. And I helped the attendees to really build confidence around the process of buying insurance. So they were all startups. They had never bought insurance before. And candidly, they were mostly women, which made me very happy as a fellow woman on her way to support other women in this way. But what would happen is we talk about, like, when do you need to buy it? Do you need to buy it the day that your business idea pops into your mind? Or do you need to buy it the day that you create your LLC? Or do you buy it the day that you get your first check from a client? You don't know the answer to this question. I do, as an insurance professional, or at least I have an opinion about it. And so follow that bouncing ball into, I'm not going to tell you how an audit works and how to fill out the worksheets and the forms, but I'm going to tell you what an audit is. And then I'm going to let you know that an insurance audit is not an IRS audit. You don't need to attach the same horror and fear that we attach to an IRS audit, right? And then what happens then when they get the paperwork for the first audit? Now, all of a sudden, they're recalling the conversation that they had with this nice woman at the seminar who said, I don't need to panic about this. It's going to be okay. 100% of the time, who did they want to buy their insurance from at the end of the day? It was me. I mean, yeah, I'm pretty great, but also I did exactly what I wanted to do for them, which was to reduce or eliminate the fear and the confusion, and to help them build confidence that while they're building a business and a product and they're going to market with something that's never existed before, you can figure this insurance piece out. Now, building a book of small business is its own sort of challenge. And so maybe this doesn't work in a middle market environment. I would argue it does, because there are a lot of buyers of insurance that have CFO and accounting type titles that still really don't understand insurance and the process and how it works. And so
Don't want to know.
Yeah, exactly. And there's ego there too, candidly. And I again say that with respect, but rising to a position of that level and admitting that you don't understand what this is at the end of the day, that's a few people are willing to admit that. And can you make that safe and comfortable for someone is also a skill.
You can just hear your empathy come through screaming, as you tell that story. And that goes such a long way with getting the conversation because to be empathetic with someone, you got to be at a certain level in your relationship in order to have that come across in the way that you can be effective. And so I can see how that can be crazy powerful. I'm just curious, do you have an example of something that you bought recently that was an unbelievable experience and they kind of sold you, right, the way that you would do it, and you're like, wow, I can learn something from this? I'm just curious from your perspective on if you've had an experience like that recently.
Yeah, I mean, it's selling to salespeople is like its own mental gymnastics, right? I feel like I'm unfairly, harshly critical when someone comes at me, with their spammy voicemails and their, it's easier, definitely easier to recall the not great experiences. But I will say, I recently, and I'll name names if you want me to or not, if you don't, but I signed up for a subscription for a video messaging tool that integrates with my email. And the company is called CoVideo. They're out of Indianapolis. And I mean, I am small potatoes to this company, right? I'm a one-woman show. It's not going to get any bigger than this. And what I appreciated about the sales experience was it was very high touch, but I also understood that it was within their own boundaries. They cannot afford to treat every client like they're the most important client. But when they did communicate it with me, it was intentional and it was actionable. And it was like, it checked all the boxes in terms of how I want to be sold this thing. Now, whether I bought it or not was going to be a very little consequence to them. What's happened as a result is I'm just a big fan. I love doing business with people that I love doing business with. And I want to tell people about that. And now, had that been a neutral or a not so great example, I wouldn't be talking about them on your podcast. And so it's just this sort of reminder that sales, I mean, we say it, it's so cliche. It's a long game. It's a long game. You never know where that that seed that you've planted is going to start to blossom. And I think companies that are out there still with a human focus, I get the value of bots and AI and simplifying chat. And I want that when it comes time to figure out how much premium I need to pay for my business insurance. But when it comes to a question that requires like a sales conversation, that human element, I want to know that there's a person out there. And that might make me old fashioned, but I still think in our business, there will be a need for that. So I hope that's a helpful example for you.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And what I was looking for. I mean, your perspective on that is there's a lot to take away from that and figure out how we can apply that to how we deliver what we deliver to clients.
Yeah. Yeah. Because to restate, because I think it's important, we cannot afford to treat all of our clients the same or like they're the most important. And yet so many of us are so well-intentioned that we want to do that. And then I see producers who struggle with delegation and they can't or they won't allow some of the things that are on their plates to be taken off their plates. It's a missed opportunity because you talked about empathy and yes, I'm high in empathy. I'm also high in self-awareness. I know this about myself and I know that I'm high in self-awareness and I know this about myself. That's a whole meta, like,
we can go an hour into that.
But I'm also really bad and really low in other things. And so I choose to spend time in the zone that comes naturally for me and that works rather than trying to spend all this time fixing and tweaking and marinating and massaging the things that don't work. And so I also see, we talk about underwriters making the switch to production. I also see a whole slew of really qualified, I would say categorically service professionals who are high in empathy, who are high in listening, who are off the charts in self-awareness. And if we're really honest with ourselves, own a lot of the relationships that a producer is earning commission for, there's an opportunity for some of those individuals to slide right on over into a sales role. But again, what does it look like? Do we have a path? Have we made it? Have we taken the fear and the confusion and the uncertainty out and replaced it with, we support you, we see you, and we want you to be successful in this way, and we're going to help you? We're doing that in bits and pieces, but I think there's intention that we can build around that too.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
Absolutely. And I mean, I'm sitting here, thinking about a lot of the things you're saying, and it's making me kind of, rethink certain things that we do every day. And so I hope it was valuable to everybody. I think it definitely was. How can people get a hold of you if they want to continue this conversation with you? I think that's really important because I'm guessing there's going to be some people out there that, for a variety of different areas within their business might want to have this further discussion. So I want to make sure that they can get a hold of you and know where to go.
Yeah, thanks. I'm very active on LinkedIn. It's been a great tool for me in building my network, but also my presence out there in the industry. And Meg McKeen, not hard to find out there. And also website adjunctadvisors.com, and it's advisors with an OR at the end. And that's a good kind of one-stop shop for all the different things I do and how to engage with me. I also host a podcast, shameless plug, wrapping up the 5th season. And it's, I hold the space specifically to share stories among women working in the industry. And of all the things I do, revenue generating or not, it's the thing I'm most proud of. It's given back so much more to me than I've given in the process of producing it. So I hope you feel the same about your experience sharing these stories. They're pretty awesome. They're a very good reminder that this is very much a human-centered business, especially on the hard days.
Oh, and yeah, absolutely would agree with that. It's just a lot of fun too. You get to talk, you get a lot of different perspectives on things. What's the name of your podcast though?
It's called Bound and Determined.
All right, everybody look up Bound and Determined on all of the podcast platforms. And
Thank you.
Thank you, Meg. This was awesome.
Yeah, it's
been fun.
Breath of fresh air. So thanks so much, and look forward to talking again.
Thank you. Thank you both for having me.
Yep, see you, Meg.
Thank you for tuning in to Getting Past the Premium. We are excited to continue breaking down barriers and finding solutions together. If you would like to reach out regarding anything you heard in today's episode, find links and contact info in the description. Until next time, have a great day, and let's continue getting past the premium.